Hey there, Brandon here, Socket Monkey Garage, and it's finally that time. I'm ready to share all the details about my lease deal and provide you insights and suggestions and guidance on how to hopefully get the lowest price on your new Dodge Charger. So stick with me and we'll get to it. So before I begin and dive deep into all of the details regarding the lease structure that I landed on and the specifics with the lease agreement that I signed with my dealer, I thought I'd just hit the key numbers, those that I think the majority of you are most interested in. And you know what? Honestly, once you see these numbers, you're more than welcome to drop if you want. But what I will do, if you do stick around, is share with you exactly all the discounts, how I qualify for them, how you might be able to qualify for them, what the invoice price is on this vehicle, and the specifics to my lease agreement and how I ended up at these numbers that I'm about to share with you. All right, so let's just make some room here and bring them up on the screen. So as you can see right away, top of the list here is that out the door price. Now, leases are different than purchases. I get that, but there's still a final agreed upon price, just as you would have with a purchase. And if you're not working your lease deals this way, you're already in trouble. You need to talk price, you need to talk discounts, and you need to agree on the fees and the taxes. Some they have control over, obviously many they don't. But you need to agree upon what would have been that price had you been a cash customer first. And that number for me was the one you see there. And then right below it, one of the almost, I'd have to say, probably equally as important, if not more important in many ways, especially when you're talking about a lease, is the residual value. So I am going to get into details later about what influences that, but essentially based on the structure I selected, which was a 24-month lease with 5,000 miles, my residual value on this deal was 61%. And I'll just let that sink in. I don't know if many of you are familiar with leasing, but a 61% residual value is like insane. It's a clear indicator, a very bright flashing beacon that Stellantis is interested in moving these cars. Now, that number there, that $52,000, almost $53,000 residual value, how accurate is that? We have no clue. They have no clue. I mean, granted, they pay some very expensive bean counters or some, I don't know, very expensive Gen AI algorithm to spit this stuff out. But if you take the number on top, and you subtract it from that residual value, that's really what I'm on the hook for. That's essentially the depreciation between the price I paid on the car and the price, the value of the car that they believe it will be worth at the end of the lease. And so in the end, that's my monthly payment, $450.56 for a MSRP, fully loaded, sticker price car, a Scat pack, stage 2 Dodge Charger Daytona that I think out the door for most people, if they didn't qualify for any discounts, would have been almost, easily $90,000. The MSRP on my unit, we'll get into that in a minute here, is nearly 86, sorry. And so for an $86,000 car, regardless if you agree, whether or not it's worth that price, that's all it will cost me. I almost did a single pay, and I'll get into more of that later, because the amount really that I had to pay was just around $10,000, and I almost just did a single pay to kind of reduce some of the costs a little bit more. But I decided to go with the monthly. I can always just pay it off at some point, if I want to. But there you have it. Those are the numbers. I'll let them sink in, and then if you're still here, let's get down into the nitty-gritty of this deal. And then hopefully you can learn something from it and you can apply it when you walk into the dealership and make the decision to drive away in one of these cars. All right, let's go. Okay, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. So as a quick recap, if you haven't been subscribing to my channel, which, honestly, let's take a moment. Could you please go down there and subscribe right now? I am on track, hopefully, to reach 1,000 subscribers within the next few weeks. And the sooner I can do that, I can then unlock all sorts of potential for this channel. And if you could just take a moment to head on down there and do that. And then if you like this video, if you get anything from it, please click the like button and please leave a comment. If you have additional questions, you need more clarity, or you have comments yourself that can help the community out when it comes to doing not only just a lease on this car, but a lot of the advice I'm going to share and this calculator that I use, it can be used for any lease deal. And so with that, let's get to it. So here to recap for everyone's benefit, what you can see is the window sticker for my car. I'm just going to, I don't know if anyone really cares about the EPA stuff. We're focused on doing the deal. So we're very much focused here on numbers. And so this Charger Daytona, the 2024 Scat pack with the track package, apparently that's important that it includes that there, has a base price of $65,000, $64,995. And then on top of that, it has a nice long list of optional equipment. The silver triple nickel paint was an additional $795. That stage 2, which bumps the horsepower up to 670, is an additional $3,200. And then the plus group, which is actually a required package on all the 2024s, is nearly $5,000 there at $4,995. Now, I'm not going to go through each of the items included in these packages. Dodge's website does that for you. If you want me to have a video that covers each of these, and maybe I go through each one and then show it on the car, demonstrate it. If that's something you're interested in, while you're down there hitting that subscribe button, could you leave a comment asking that? And I might put one together. But going back to this video, here we also then have the Sun and Sound package for $24.95. The carbon and suede package for $29.95, and then finally that very important track package for $34.95. There's also this drive experience recorder, which is $1,000, and quite honestly, between you and me, I don't think it's worth it. And then this destination charge of $19,995 brought the total MSRP of my car to $85,965. In essence, $86,000. So if you were to, make a cash offer on this car, depending on where you live, and you include the taxes, here in Tennessee where I'm at, it's like around 7%. There's also some flat fees that are taxes. And then there's obviously title and registration. You'd easily be pushing $90,000 to get this car out the door. And that out the door price is very important, no matter what kind of deal you're working, whether it be cash up front, some type of finance offer, or a lease like I did. So let's move this away. And in fact, let's first start, well, you know what? Let me, instead of burying the lead here, let me move my lease agreement. And I'm going to share the invoice with you. Now, please don't go spreading this around the internet. And I have redacted some important pieces here. But let me just zoom in. And as you can see, here's my car. Here's the factory wholesale prices for everything. And I have left, I've redacted the employee and the preferred pricing. If your friends and family an employee, or you're a dealer employee, or if you're part of the affiliate program, those are various ways of getting a good deal on the car. It typically is based around the invoice price, a specific invoice price for that qualification range. And then sometimes 1% below that, or a flat fee, so to say, with the affiliate program. But these are just different ways of immediately walking into the dealership. If you qualify for these programs, it's an immediate way of walking in knowing you're already going to get a pretty decent deal off the sticker price itself. So here you can see the dealer price is $81,706. So this is if they said, show me the dealer invoice. That's most likely what they're going to show. So clearly already there's a little over $4,200 in wiggle room that every dealer is going to have on this particular configuration. But even a dealer employee would pay a little bit less than that. About, what is that? About 680 something bucks. 70 bucks, 75 bucks less. I'm not good at doing mental math, but as you can see, I promised I'd show this information. I'm quite honestly a little hesitant because I don't know how happy Dodge will be, or my dealer in particular. But this is here for my viewers, and I think it's, knowledge is power, and it's not something I want to just keep to myself. If this can help you score a good deal, and I'm more comfortable sharing this invoice simply because Dodge is offering some really good lease deals now, and the only way on earth they're really capable of doing that based on the numbers I'm seeing is if they bring the price of the car down. And let's be real. Let's bring that. Matter of fact, let's bring this window sticker back up and address one of the common complaints about this car head on. That price. $86,000 for this car. I've driven the car a little over 300 miles now. I've had it a little over a week. And I'm going to say, I love the car. I absolutely am ecstatic to have this car. I look for any excuse to go pick it up and drive it. And I have a smile on my face every time that I do. I'm still learning the car. I'm still getting more and more comfortable with sort of pushing that envelope of hitting the power shot and just seeing how quickly I can get up to my desired speed, learning how it performs, quick emergency braking, my own version of a moose test that I do. That's just kind of the shakedown that I do when I get a new car to build my confidence level up. And what I'm really looking forward to are those 2 days at Radford Racing that came with this first call package car. And I cannot wait to absolutely hoon the crap out of theirs so that I can really truly learn what's the breaking point on the tires, what's the best way to approach a corner, how do I get this thing to loosen up when I want it to loosen up and do a drift or a donut? We'll see, but I'm so happy to have the opportunity on Dodge's dime to go and do that and abuse the heck out of their car and then come back and take what I learned and apply it to my own. So with that said, going back to the price, do I feel, having said all that this car is worth $86,000? No. I mean, just instantly no. And when you look at the price I paid out the door with all of the discounts and the incentives and everything that I qualified for, I feel I got a good deal. So I guess that means that in my mind, the real true MSRP for this car is somewhere between the price I paid and this sticker price. And I would have to say, I think $73,000 to $75,000 would be a more accurate, more in line with the experience that I'm getting from the car. Also, just given the fact that I just bought that brand new 2025 BMW for around that price itself, and quite honestly, while they are very different cars, I'm not trying to compare the car in any way, but I will say when you're in this price range, you kind of expect certain amenities within the car, certain options, certain capabilities. And given those for the Dodge Charger Daytona, I can't help but see Dodge at some point accepting that a market kind of correction for this thing, much like they did with the Grand Wagoneer, maybe in its future. And maybe they'll take an opportunity to sort of kind of refactor their pricing strategy on these cars when the six packs come out, when the four doors come out, and then when on the horizon there's potentially either the Banshee EV variant, the 800 volt architecture, or maybe a V8 powered one. But anyway, let's get to why we're here and start talking more numbers. So there you have it again. There's the invoice. This is really kind of your starting point. And so what I will say, and I'm not going to get into details on this. In fact, the individual who helped me qualify for employee pricing due to being a Chrysler Corporation retiree in my family has wished to not be pulled into this and wishes that I not bring them up or any details about their relationship to what is now Stellantis. But thankfully, due to that relationship, I walked in right away knowing I was going to get the best invoice price on this car. And I will say it is a decent amount less than this $81,7606. And I'm going to open up my spreadsheet that I used when I was going through the back and forth, with the dealer. Maybe you've seen the video. I'll pop up a link here in the corner of this video if you want to go back and watch that now. Kind of have this insight into what I was really talking about while I was trying to remain a little vague about the details of this deal, because I honestly didn't want to burn it. I didn't want the dealer just to say, forget you. This isn't worth it. Because I can tell you right now, at the end of all this, the conclusion you're going to come to is the dealer took a wash on this. Stellantis took a wash on this. Stellantis Financial Services, when this car is due to be returned and probably won't be worth the residual value that my lease structure provided, is going to take a wash on this. So I feel like, regardless of what you say about the car, the quality of the car, issues with bricking, issues with quality, wherever you sit in the spectrum of people that are interested in this car, either to hate it or to love it or in between, what I have to say is I got a hell of a deal. I feel like I got a really good deal, and I think I made out pretty well. So, with all that said, I can't help but take that into account when I'm assessing the car. Had I paid $90,000 for it, maybe I'd have been less amenable to the fact that the 12-volt battery died on me 2 days after buying it. When I look at the deal that I got, and I see I'm only paying $450 a month, which I don't know about you, but I've never had a car payment that low. I mean, maybe I leased a Volkswagen Jetta for like $299 sign and drive, but this is by far the most expensive car with the cheapest payment that I've ever seen, for me personally. So with that, let's move this aside and let's talk about how I worked this deal. And so what you see in front of you here is a spreadsheet that I built using the first lease agreement that my dealer sent me. Initially, it was a 36-month lease that I was looking at, 10,000 miles, your typical average lease. Obviously, that changed. And I also used a website called leasehacker.com. And if you are ever interested in leasing, I highly recommend you go out to their forum. And if you want, for just $15, you only have to sign up to be a super supporter for 1 month. You'll get access to their lease calculator that actually has all of the lease structures from all of the major lenders and major manufacturers. And so I took that and I built this for myself. Honestly, I created this because of the issue I was running into with the dealer, where the numbers they were sending me just didn't make sense. And so I was trying to make sense of it all. But let me just run things down through this spreadsheet. Apologies for geeking out. This is kind of what I do. It's how my mind works. I love being able to have a good idea before I ever walk into a dealership what it is that this car is going to cost me. And that way I can immediately gauge, is this dealer just, blowing smoke up my bum, or are they, really trying to sell a car and they're willing to work through that. So over here, you will see that I have the MSRP. There's that invoice price again. And then here is the employee price. And I said I was going to hide it, but there it is right there. That's the actual starting point that we started with when it came to this car. So if you come down over here, here's the incentive tracking section. So here's where I logged all the incentives that were available at the time I placed my order, as well as available at the time I went to sign this deal. So if we go back to the invoice real quick, I think it's on here. Yeah. So what you'll see is it says sold order price protected. So that's just one of the benefits when you place a deposit on a car with Stellantis and with Stellantis Financial Services. If you're going for a lease, any lease structures, any lease programs, any deals that were available at the time you placed your deposit and placed your order for your car, you're price protected, meaning those will still be available to you. Their systems are set up to authorize even expired ones since you have that sold order protection in place on that vehicle's invoice. And because of that, I not only qualified for everything that was available before, I qualified for programs that came out just 2 days before I closed my deal, because thankfully, as motivated as Stellantis is in selling these cars, they kept rolling over all of the incentives and the deals from the day I placed my order all the way into the day I signed it. So I think I did pretty damn well. We had the friends and family bonus cash incentive of $2,000, my military discount of $500. This is the employee advantage price. So this is the price off the MSRP. So that's kind of what they took off the MSRP of the car. There was this Conquest lease cash. Since I leased the Kia EV9, I got $2,000 off as a lease Conquest incentive. There was the President's Day bonus combo cash for $3,000. And then the dealership, in an effort to make things right. If you saw my other video, they did send me some wrong numbers and set me down this rabbit hole where I made like 1 or 2 videos about it. You know, looking back now, maybe it was a bit silly, but I was really confused and started to get pretty upset. And so thankfully, Ken, the general manager, who actually he's not at Crown anymore. I hope it has nothing to do with this, but they also ponied up an additional $3,000 in dealer cash. So when you add up all of the discounts, and now this includes the money off the MSRP for my friends and family invoice price, we have a total of $18,644 in discounts. So when you subtract that from the MSRP, you end up with the final agreed upon price of the vehicle, $67,320.70 for an $86,000 car. I think that's a good deal on what I really think the car's worth. I mean, if you remember what I said earlier, that's nearly 10 grand off, 9 to 10 grand off the price I said I think the car really should be at from an MSRP perspective. Then, of course, you've got dealer dock fees, acquisition fees for the lease. I went ahead and did an excessive wear waiver for $400. If I go over the mileage or the car's not perfect when I turn it in, that will cover me for that. And in my experience with past lease turn-ins, $400 is getting out of it pretty good. And then you've got the sales and use taxes, the upfront taxes. There's also monthly taxes added to the payment. And then there's some non-tax fees, but they're government fees of $70. So the gross capitalized cost, which is essentially the out-the-door price based on my calculator, came to $70,861.56. So what you do is you come up here and you take that number, you then subtract any capitalized cost reductions. So in my case, this lease qualified for the U.S. government's $7,500 EV tax credit. Now, since I'm leasing it through Stellantis, and technically Stellantis owns the car, they're a commercial entity. And so even though this vehicle exceeds the normal price and my income exceeds the normal income level, to qualify for that full $7,500, that's kind of out the window. They use a loophole to still be able to apply $7,500 as a commercial lease. And then on top of that, I had already paid a $1,000 deposit. So that's where you see that $8,500 there. What that leaves you with is the adjusted cap cost. This is the true out-the-door price after all discounts, after all rebates and tax credits and deposits. This is the price that if I were to have paid cash or to have, say, financed the car, this would have been the price that I was paying. Now we take the residual value. So if you remember earlier, the residual value, I have it over here. That number was 61%. And how we derived at that is for Stellantis Financial Services on a 24-month lease, the base residual value is 57%. Still an incredible residual value. Because I opted for an ultra low mileage lease of 5,000 miles, they added another 4% to that, coming to 61%, or $52,438.65. So when you take these two numbers and you subtract what the out-the-door price is for the car, and you subtract the residual value, what you're left is the depreciation. This is essentially what I'm on the hook for the next 24 months. I could have single paid that and just not worried about making any payments for the next 2 years. Many people will do that. I know with Audi, they usually have some pretty good, Porsche too will have some pretty good options from a single pay perspective. Stellantis had one and I ran the numbers and it knocked a couple $100 off the total base for my monthly. And I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me at the time. So what we did is we decided to go with the 24-month payments. And so you take that amount, you factor in what's called the money factor, which generates a rent charge. Now the money factor is based on your credit tier. Now I'm a tier 1 customer, which means that's the highest tier based on my credit score. And the money factor essentially is this number. It's a decimal. It's like 0.000 on this deal. You can see over here that my money factor was 0.00005. Again, stellar money factor. And as a result, using a formula, that generates a rent charge of $5.74 per month. Obviously, if you're a tier 2 or tier 3, I would expect that number to go up. But even then, looking at the lease structures, they showed me all the structures for all the different lease programs. The money factor is still pretty decent, but I will say if you are tier 1, take advantage of this, because as a result, all that added was $137 or $138 to the depreciation. So we had a total for the base monthly payments before taxes of $10,060.67. An 86, $90,000 out the door car. I get to drive it for 2 years for 10 grand. I think it's a hell of a deal. So you simply divide that number by 24. You end up with a monthly payment around $419.19. And then you calculate, in Tennessee, we do tax on every payment. So that came up to $448.54 based on my calculator. So that's what I walked into the dealership expecting to pay. Let's see what I actually ended up paying here. So here we have my lease agreement. I'm going to try to carefully not move over anything that's redacted because it will expose it. But as you can see, here's my lease done on the 7th of February. That lines up with my live stream. So this is my paperwork. There is my 2024 Dodge Daytona Scat pack. And here you can see this is the number that I shared earlier, that 450.56. So my calculator was pretty damn close. I'm rather proud of that. In fact, I'm sure they were just being nice, but even the finance people at the Dodge dealer said that they've never had a customer come in with such an elaborate spreadsheet and be so close in their estimates to the actual number that they drove away with. So as you can see here, the numbers that they got to, just so you can check and see that my spreadsheet wasn't that far off. Now, granted, they calculate things a little bit differently in their system, but they came up with the gross capitalized cost of $81,361.86. Here's where they take off all those discounts and they come up with the adjusted capitalized cost of $62,406. You then take that residual value at 61% for an MSRP of $86,000 equals $52,438.65, leaving the depreciation to be $9,900 and $9,968.08. There's that rent charge of $137.84, leaving the total for the base payments of $10,105.92. Divide that by 24, you get $421.08. You add those Tennessee taxes and you come to $450.56. So there you have it. Everyone kept asking. I promised I'd share it. Transparency is key here at Socket Monkey Garage. I want to enable you to get the best deal that you can get, and I really truly hope that through all this you learned something. I think one of the key things that you can take away from this is look at and research all of the available deals. I've had a few people reach out to me on the Daytona Owners Forum, and if you'd like to engage with me more on this topic, please come over there, join the forum, and ask me via that format. That way others can see what my responses are, and others can see, what what information I've been able to provide. But the key thing here is jump on these lease deals. They're not going to last forever. And research the incentives you qualify for. If you don't have a family member who's retired from or works at Stellantis that can get you qualified for employee pricing, I'm sorry. I'm very fortunate, to have benefited from that. But there is the affiliate program. There's certain automotive clubs you can join that qualify you for the affiliate program. My employer actually qualified me for affiliate before I figured out I can get the employee pricing. And even with the affiliate pricing, that's still a good deal. So do your due diligence and your research to find out, what's going to put you in the best position possible to pay the lowest price before these dealers start to tack on market adjustments and maybe these things take off and become wildly popular and you're paying over sticker price. Those days, these days may be numbered. Those days may be coming. Who knows? But then look at all the bonus cash, things like the President's Day sale, the conquest if you're currently leasing another vehicle, a military discount or a first responders discount, could take a little bit off. Do everything you can. Research that heavily. And again, I do suggest you go and visit leasehacker.com. They can aggregate and pull all that information for you for just one $15 charge. That $15 I spent for the month that I had of Lease Hacker Super Supporter more than paid off because I was able to determine that there were a couple of bonus cash incentives that the dealer hadn't necessarily told me about. So there you have it. A new Dodge Charger Daytona Scat Pack Stage 2 for $450.56 a month. So this has been Brandon. This has been my lease deal. And I do thank you for joining me. And I hope to see you in the next one.